Yeah, I think this is a really key discussion, especially we're talking about, again, the impacts of the war in Ukraine and rising energy prices and the energy transition toward renewable sources and whether that means we should be divesting from oil and gas. I think there's the divestment discussion when it comes to controversies like the war in Ukraine and companies divesting from business in Russia. And I think that there's a very strong place for that in terms of protecting human rights and not engaging in business when that conflict is arising. But when we look at divestment from oil and gas companies, for example, to move toward renewable energy sources, I believe it's not the one solution. I think there's certainly a place for investors to remain invested in oil and gas companies to help steward along the energy transition, because we certainly it is a transition. We need all players to come along that journey. So I don't think it's a black and white divestment is the right answer when it comes to that energy piece of it. But the engagement is what can really drive some continuous change. So I think historically, of course, the focus has been on financial materiality, and that's been the sole driver of a lot. But this expansion through CSRD to focus on double materiality really takes into consideration other impacts on people and on the planet, but those that still align with the core business of a company where they can have impact. And I think that it's a discussion we had at a few of the panels in terms of not just having that impact be qualitative in nature, but rather translating it into the balance sheet, into numbers where we see still the financial impact of those, but we're not just considering the traditional financially material factors. I absolutely think that social is becoming more prominent. The environment piece has definitely historically been the focus, specifically climate change. We see that through the required TCFD reporting in the UK. We see that through the EU taxonomy that really puts environment as a front and center priority focus area. But with the impacts of COVID and now again in the continued occurrence in the war in Ukraine, we're certainly seeing the necessity to hone in on the S and evolve efforts around the S. I think historically it's been a little bit harder to quantify, which is why the E has been a bit more of a focus. Emissions, energy, waste, that's easier to tack on some quantitative data to, but the social side is just as important, and I think it's starting to be treated with a little bit more specificity, I guess I'll say, to dig into it and ensure that companies are performing strongly in that area. And then for the G, traditional governance has been something that companies have had a handle on for many years, but governance in the context of ESG, so the governance of environmental and social topics, has also been given a new degree of importance when we think about board oversight and accountability for ESG risks and opportunities. That's something, again, that we've seen large institutional investors like Norges, like Legal in General, make clear in their voting policies or Norges's climate policy that they will expect companies to demonstrate strong board oversight and management of ESG risks and opportunities. So I think there's a greater balance among the three pillars, more so than there maybe has ever been before.